Hey everyone. Unfortunately for Lucid stock investors, the stock price is near record lows and has fallen significantly from the near $60 per share stock price at its highs. So is now finally the time to buy Lucid stock? Is it finally a good value for long-term investors? That's what I'm going to answer in this video, digging through Lucid's details and looking at its financial metrics and its expectations for the next couple of years. So join me and let's jump right in.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
So if you're a subscriber to the channel and you've been watching my videos on Lucid stock, you would have seen my Lucid stock analysis, my price prediction for 2024. And in this video about 1 month ago, I said that Lucid stock was not a buy for investors, not to buy Lucid stock at the moment. Well, fast forward 1 month later, and that stock price was near $5 per share when I recorded that video. It's now down to $2.82 per share. So if you had listened and heeded the warnings, you would have avoided this most recent stock price decline in Lucid stock. Although longer term, unfortunately, Lucid stock used to trade at near $60 per share and it's now down to $2.81 per share. But even before I was on YouTube, I was writing articles for the Motley Fool. And even since then, I've been warning investors, especially during these peak valuation times, to be careful of Lucid stock, to avoid purchasing at those peak valuations because there was too much optimism baked into those prices. There was too much forecasts for excellent EV growth for the next 5, 10, 15 years, thinking the entire fleet of automobiles were going to switch to EVs in the next 5 or 10 years. And I felt those expectations were unrealistic. It's too difficult to switch an entire automobile fleet to a new technology in a short amount of time. There are too many growing pains, too many pain points that cause friction that will require more time to transition. Now, I agree that over time, more vehicles will be EVs compared to internal combustion engine. I just think that transition is going to be slower and it's going to take longer and it's going to be more expensive. The infrastructure is not there yet. It needs to be built out, and that's going to take time. That's going to take time. You can't rush these things. It takes time. There's a lot of physical capital that needs to move around to make this happen. So, with this stock price decline, is it finally time to buy Lucid stock? Well, let's look at some of its metrics, right? So let's start with the income statement here. If we look at the 9 months, which ended on September 30th for Lucid, you can see the performance has worsened. Revenue in the most recent quarter fell from 195 million down to 137 million. And the total cost for operations increased despite the decrease in revenue. And that led to a loss from operations that was higher than the same time last year, despite the lower revenue, growing from $687 million loss on the bottom line to a $752 million loss. Now, if you look at the 9 month period ended September 30th, that loss was even bigger, growing from 1.8 billion up to $2.362 billion loss on the bottom line. These are massive losses for any company to endure, especially a newer company that doesn't have decades of history where it built up billions of dollars of cash and a borrowing facility. So this is risky. The company is losing billions of dollars and it needs to ramp up to stop those losses on the bottom line. It needs to grow production. And management said that it has grown production. It has the ability to sell more cars. The problem is demand. Demand is not there to buy those cars that Lucid can produce. So what's Lucid to do now? They have the manufacturing capacity. They can make more cars, but there isn't customers to buy them. And so they need to get customer demand increasing. And that's the strategy that's most difficult when you're selling luxury vehicles. How do you get customer demand to increase? Right? If you're a luxury brand and you start slashing prices, you run the risk of lowering your brand value. You're not a luxury brand anymore if you're offering discounts, if you're slashing prices, right? So that's a risk for them. Could they increase advertising? Yeah, they can increase advertising, but they've got to figure a way to do that effectively and to spend in areas that are going to turn into increasing customer demand. Now, the good news is that Wall Street expects Lucid to explode literally in revenue over the next 2 years. For 2024, Wall Street analysts expect Lucid's revenue to increase to 1.34 billion, more than doubling the 630 million in 2023. And when it's all said and done, 2023 might be a year where Lucid's overall revenue decreased. So they're going from a year where revenue decreases to a year where revenue more than doubles. And the difference maker here is going to be some new models that came out and the SUV that's coming out later in 2024. Although I don't think the SUV is going to play a large part in Lucid's revenue in 2024 because that's coming out closer towards the end of the year. I don't think there's going to be enough time for it to play a meaningful role in Lucid's revenue for 2024. Although I'll tell you this, I saw the video presentation for that SUV and it looks amazing. It's one of the best looking EV SUVs in the market. And on the announcement, they said it was going to be priced, the entry model, at less than $80,000. So it's going to be comparable, let's say, to a Rivian SUV. That's right around that price range as well. So, I mean, when that comes out, hopefully that will spur customer demand and revenue will increase. That's what Wall Street is expecting, a more than doubling of their revenue in 2024 and then a almost tripling in revenue in 2025. So from 600 million to 1.34 billion to 3.72 billion. So surging revenue for Lucid is expected over the next 2 years. The problem is that they're still expected, even with that surging revenue, they're still expected to lose money on the bottom line, $1.06 in loss per share for 2024, and then 78 cents in loss per share in 2025. So losses are still expected to continue even at this scale, even at the scale of nearly 4 billion in revenue, of nearly 6 times where they were in 2023, is still not going to be enough to stop those losses on the bottom line. So finally, let's look at its valuation. Lucid is trading at a forward price to sales of 1.696, and this is the cheapest you've been able to buy Lucid stock according to this metric going back, all the way to late 2021. You haven't been able to get this stock at a cheaper value. That being said, I'm still not comfortable enough to recommend Lucid stock as a buy. Now, if this valuation was to go a little bit lower, I would now be approaching the range where I would consider Lucid stock as a buy. Now, coming into 2024, I was saying that even if the stock price were to fall by 20%, I wouldn't recommend it as a buy. And the stock has fallen by more than 20% since that last, since I launched that video about a month ago. It was trading at closer to $5 per share when I made that video, and it's now down closer to $3 per share. So it's down by 40%, and I'm still not considering it a buy just because of the massive challenge it has to grow the business effectively and to stem those losses on the bottom line and to stop diluting shareholders, because somebody's got to pay for all those losses, and it's going to be shareholders. They're going to issue more stock or they're going to borrow more money to stop those, to help support this growth to where they can get to a point where they're self-sustaining. So I think this correction, unfortunately, it cost a lot of investors a lot of money. I'm not happy to see that. But now it's approaching levels where if it was to fall another 20%, that's where I might start to consider recommending the stock as a buy. But even at these levels, I still don't think Lucid stock is a buy. Did you know that over 90% of the people that watch my channel are not subscribed? It'll really help support my channel if you hit that subscribe button. And oh, by the way, one of the benefits of being subscribed is that I take requests from subscribers more often than I do from non-subscribers. So if you prefer that benefit, please subscribe to the channel.